what do we need to know about the female orgasm, Trish?
Well, currently in our world, particularly the Western world, orgasm has become the big issue. So for many couples particularly, the man wants his partner, his wife, whatever, to have an orgasm, and he feels bad if she doesn't have an orgasm.
Sure.
And indeed, she can feel bad if she doesn't have an orgasm. So what we've come from is many years ago where female orgasm simply wasn't an issue. Now it has become a huge issue for both people.
Okay.
And often they don't even talk about it. They pretend, or they act like it's happening, and they act like it's an achievement that they have to get.
Okay, so if couples are finding it difficult to have an orgasm, Trish, what should they think about doing as a consequence?
Well, I think before we go into what they should think of doing, I think first of all we need to assess if there's a problem behind it.
Okay.
So, for example, if there's an organic issue, if there's been a sudden crisis, if there's been a damage to the groin area, if there's been something like medication taken, or there's a sudden stop of all possibility of orgasm, I would recommend they go and see their GP or gynecologist.
So you mean like a physical symptom or physical difficulty?
Or even something very sudden happening. So there was orgasm and suddenly there wasn't.
Okay.
I would think that's probably, you should go have a physical checkout first.
Okay.
However, often that's not the case. Often it gradually decreases over time, or in fact you never had it in the first place.
What decreases over time exactly?
Orgasmic ability.
Orgasmic ability decreases. Okay.
Yeah.
So does that change with age? I mean, are orgasms more difficult to come by as we get older?
Well, I think you'd have to ask a lot of women that, but I
Okay.
don't think so. I think maybe the type of orgasm changes
Okay.
with age, perhaps with partners, perhaps with the kind of self-commentary that women have on themselves. They're the kind of issues that we really need to be tackling.
So do you think it's something to do with how women understand their own sexuality is partly the difficulty or the problem that people have?
Yeah, there are many issues, and
Okay.
certainly that's one of them.
Okay.
So, for example, we need to look at cultural issues. We need to look at cultural expectations of, should women in this culture have orgasms at all? We should look at the religious upbringing. We should look at the family story. Like, for in some families, being a good girl or a good woman means no orgasm, at least not to look like you're enjoying it. So we need to look at the family stories that have come down, maybe unspoken, and yet those messages have come down very clearly and may have a very strong impact. So one of those examples would be something like vaginismus, which is where the woman cannot have any penetration at all. And very often that's a psychological, the body protecting the woman from, say, parental advice or parental even secret messages of don't enjoy sex.
So maybe as a young person, as a teenager, the girl was told or kind of given the idea or the message that sex is not something that she should enjoy, and now she's kind of interpersonalized that into herself, into her thinking.
Yeah.
And now she thinks that sex isn't something that she should enjoy, and therefore vaginismus is the response of her body to that idea.
Yeah, very possibly, but also because orgasm is very much a letting go. It's very much a total relaxation, total letting go, no obsession with result, no obsession with achievement. So for many women, they're trying to achieve orgasm and trying to achieve it for their partner's sake or for society's sake or for feeling right can mean that they simply can't have it.
So the simple fact of trying to achieve it makes it almost more difficult to achieve.
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
In fact, the research, the current research is very interesting. So the female brain on orgasm goes completely dark. No thinking, no feeling.
It shuts off.
No minding, no looking after anyone, just total freedom from thinking and feeling for X number of seconds. But for many women, particularly women who are in control of their lives, who like to be in control of everything, the idea of having no control and letting go completely can be very difficult. And particularly if there are messages from their culture, their families, or their backgrounds that they should always be in charge.
So does that mean then that, say, a professional woman who likes to be, in control of everything, her timetable, all that kind of stuff, that she's going to maybe be so focused on having an orgasm when she wants it that might actually disrupt her ability to have an orgasm?
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely. And in fact, it mightn't even be that. It might be that she's so focused on getting through this so that she can get up early tomorrow morning to do the presentation, to do whatever it is, that her mind simply won't let her go enough to orgasm.
And what about being a parent, for example, having children? How does that affect a woman's perception of her body and also maybe the idea of having an orgasm? Do women who are parents still think that they should deserve orgasms even, or is that something that they did in their previous to being a parent type of life?
My guess is probably if you had orgasms before babies, you probably will have them afterwards if you have the time. Time is often an issue, and also I suppose women are very sensitive to children hearing or being in the next room or something like that, and they would carry a lot of worries about that. However, one of the things that I would like to bring up on this concern issue is porn.
Okay.
So for
Okay.
for example, if porn has been part of what you as a couple do, it might be that comparing yourself to the women that are in porn might make you feel very inadequate, might make you feel like you don't look good. And so instead of enjoying yourself, your commentary is all in your head.
When you say commentary, what do you mean?
Well, self-commentary, self-comment. So
So
instead of giving your attention to your partner, to your body, to what's
Okay.
going on, you're actually commenting and restricting it, saying, oh, I must do something about my stomach, and
Ah,
I'm
okay.
not good enough, and I don't look well. So,
So-
one of the difficulties
Sure.
on that is that women who are in porn perhaps are nearly all photoshopped, they've all had work done, they're not real women. So it's very hard to compare yourself favourably with what appears on that. And a lot of women can suffer as a result.
Okay, and do you think that couples who use porn are going to have less effective sex lives than couples who don't use porn? Because it is so common.
Yeah.
I mean, it's everywhere. Every from MTV music videos, you'll see some kind of sexualization of women. How does that affect women's perception of themselves? And does a woman having a negative perception of herself affect her ability to have an orgasm?
Well, absolutely. I
Okay.
mean, you're,
Okay.
the idea of orgasm is total freedom, enjoyment, letting go. If you're trying to be something that you're not going to be able to achieve that. Now, however, porn it's not always negative. Some couples really enjoy it and have no problem with it. But increasingly, I'm coming across couples and women where it is an issue, where they haven't had the courage to speak about it. So I think part of the whole letting go to achieve an orgasm is about being able to have that discussion, is about letting somebody close enough to discuss what's really going on, as opposed to pretending to be perfect and wanting to keep them at a distance.
And do you think couples in Ireland and around the world even have a difficulty understanding that intimacy and sexual intimacy can be two different things, and that you can be physically intimate with somebody but never actually emotionally connect? And does then a lack of emotional connection make it difficult for women to experience an orgasm?
Well, very much so.
Okay.
I mean, I think there are people who can orgasm in casual sex because it has no meaning.
Ah, okay.
Yes, and then often find it very difficult to orgasm with their partner. And the reason for that is that it's very intimate. The partner knows them too well, and the feeling of exposure can be too big. However, it can also work the other way around, whereas that it's only in the safety of a very safe relationship that they can actually experience orgasm.
So women, for example, who would masturbate and kind of pleasure themselves, they would find it easier to have an orgasm than if they have to surrender and be vulnerable perhaps with their male partner. So is that an issue?
Yeah, and surprisingly, many women still don't masturbate, still don't have a knowledge of their own bodies. And I'm not sure why that's so.
Okay.
But there are still quite large numbers of women who don't masturbate in any comfort, who don't know their own bodies, and who really put their bodies in charge of a man.
Okay.
And that's really not okay. A man,
Okay.
you shouldn't be handing over your body to a man. You should know how it works. And you should be prepared to teach him or let him know how it functions well.
I would say people listening to this or watching us speaking about this would find that that's kind of very strange information to be given them, that
Yeah.
that a man doesn't give a woman an orgasm, she almost gives herself an orgasm,
Yeah.
or permission to give herself an orgasm. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's exactly what you're hearing.
Okay,
And
okay.
because it is about, for a woman, it's about her body and sharing it with somebody and trusting them enough to be really intimate.
Okay.
And that might mean, slowing things down and saying, okay, I feel a tightness now, I feel really tense here, and working with that,
Okay.
as opposed to trying to get through a performance.
So almost owning what she's
Yeah.
experiencing within her body and then relaying that information to her partner, and the partner having enough sensitivity and
Yeah.
maturity and respect to take her where she's at, as opposed to making her feel that she's inadequate in some way.
Well, as maybe we're all thinking about sex as result driven. We all think,
Yes.
let's keep going
Yes.
until we get to the orgasm, and then that's great.
Okay.
But, it shouldn't be like that.
So
Yeah.
even the word masturbation, I think most people associate masturbation with just pleasuring the orgasm, and that's pretty
Yeah.
much it.
Yeah.
Should masturbation involve more than just that? Should it be part of understanding our own bodies, from even just
Yeah.
understanding how our bodies function? Would that be what you mean?
Yes, absolutely. And I
Okay.
think that the way I would normally work with couples and with women on their own would be to sensate the body. In other words, get in contact with your senses.
Okay.
So that means reading material, reading
Okay.
erotic material that suits you. It means, nice smells and oils and, light and music, and really connecting with your senses. And that, if I was to give the one direction that would be useful to couples or to women, the idea is that we should be focused on our senses totally not on our thoughts, not on our
Okay.
self-commentaries,
Okay.
not on worried about what the other person is thinking, but staying with where the body is and functioning well with that.
So should we almost be a little bit selfish in terms of what we want from our sexual experiences, and in that way they become more fulfilling as a consequence?
Yes and no. I'm be worried about the word selfish because that again assumes that we're focusing on ourselves. And actually, it's almost like you focus from your body out,
Okay.
right? So it's very inclusive of other people, but it is a self-awareness as opposed to any kind of self-analysis. So
Okay.
you want to operate fully from knowing what state your body is in, working with it completely, sharing it, lightheartedness and fun. One of the big problems we have in relationships is that there's too much meaning attached to every single bit of it. So the fear, will it be like the last time? The fear, is it going
Okay.
to work? The concern that, my God, I'm carrying my partner's expectations. So it should be just what it is and accept it for what it is.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, what you're saying is that sometimes sex can be fantastic, sometimes it can be messy,
Yes.
sometimes it can be fun, sometimes it can be serious, and it
Yeah.
is what it is. We don't need to make it fantastic and bells and whistles all the time.
No, we shouldn't. We shouldn't be measuring it. And it's one of the big issues we have. We think, oh God, I'm at a 2 out of 10, right?
Okay.
And then it feels impossible. So if you're at a 2, you think, okay, how am I going to get to 3?
Sure.
Right? So you ask your partner, how am I going to get to 3? And will you help me get to 3? And what might 3 look like? And that's fantastic. And then you can manage it that way. But we get very concerned about, we get despairing about ever getting it or managing it, and then that comes into, it becomes something that's disappointing and full of despair. Sure, who wants to repeat that?